Hey peeps! Fable and I are coming to you today in the kind of flurrying cold here in New England, and I wanted to take some time to answer a viewer request question. So I recently had a fellow priestess on the path ask me if I would speak to working with multiple faces of deity and how to maneuver through that type of path walking and not feel like you aren't giving everyone the proper accord, the presence, the honor, the gratitude in the journey. And I thought that that was a great question. I don't believe I've addressed this in a viewer Q&A so far, and so it felt appropriate to speak to in our general witchcraft series. And there's a lot of debate around working with multiple faces of deity. I've spoken about that in the past, and so I am a proponent for working with multiple faces of deity. I think it's absolutely possible in one's journey and walk, and I think that certain faces of deity come through to walk with us, to work with us, to connect with us at certain points in our path. And while we're moving through certain experiences, lessons, aspects of our journey, and to connect with various faces of deity does not mean that we are not being really present or honoring our core deity or our patroness or patron deity. So we can still work with one specific deity primarily, but also have others come in and out of our journey. And to me, that is viable, acceptable, and it is what I do in my path and journey as well. And so I have various ways of ensuring that I'm still paying proper attention to my overarching connection with Isis overall when I'm working with other faces of deity. So I want to speak a little bit to how I do that now. I have found very helpful having a separate core altar for Isis alone, and that is her pride of place within my personal practice space. And so always I am able to every day light something on that altar and express my gratitude for our connection to her. I should also say here that I don't feel that we have a relationship of worshiping deity. I think deity comes through to connect and walk with us. And that connection is done from a reverential perspective as equals, not as one of us being below the other. It is a mentorship experience, if you will, not an experience of a child with a parent, if you will, or where there's an uneven power balance. But for me, Isis has her altar, and I light a devotional candle to her there daily. And always I can tap into that energy, even when I'm working with other deity. When I am working with other faces of the goddess or the god who come through, I will often on my main working altar have a devotional space for them. So they have their space, but Isis has her own overarching altar, and I connect in with her every day. Outside of that, when it comes to walking with a certain face of deity, when a new goddess comes in, or a goddess that I don't typically walk with on the daily comes into my experience, the first thing that will happen is I'll start to notice her energy more often. So I'll feel it around me more personally instead of in the reading space for clients, let's say. Like for instance, most recently with Medusa, I started to see actual representations of Medusa in random places at Marshall's. I don't even know. I was like, that's very, very random. And then she started popping up in certain card work. There would be imagery. Videos on her would go through my YouTube feed, which for me is representative of, okay, this is something to pay attention to. And I keep getting those signs again and again. And then I started to hear her. I started to hear her talking to me about something she wanted to explore with me around beauty and ugliness and the power of the feminine and themes of subjugation that result. And so I knew that we were going to be taking a journey together. And so a space came forward on the altar, offerings were made. I started to associate a certain deck with working with her, and I started to talk to her and listen to her. Now, how do I do that? I get asked that a lot. I talk to her. I'll sit in front of my altar and I feel her energy, and I'll just have a conversation with her. And this is a way that I honor and start to build the connection with her, start to build the working relationship. And oftentimes I'll ask questions of like, why have you come forward? What are we exploring together? What do you wish me to understand about you? How might you have some insight for me around this area of my life? And that conversation can be done verbally or inwardly, within the mind. And also you can bring card work into that. You can craft specific spreads for a new goddess or god or spirit animal guide you feel coming forward, and get to know them in that way. And then literally ask them, how can I best honor you for this journey? Sometimes some faces of the goddess will want me to wear a specific piece of jewelry for them. Sometimes it is enough that there is a space on the altar where candles can be lit and where a communication can take place. Always, I'm engaging in astral travel or journey work with any face of deity that's walking with me, because that's how I best understand what they're here to teach me. And that's how I best listen, is in that quiet space of stillness, typically around 4 a.m. But making that time to journey with them, to engage in astral travel with them, to connect in their own home energy and listen to what they have to say becomes a way that I build relationship with them. And still, while that's going on, I have my connection to Isis, my patroness, and to the energy of Satan, who is the male face of divinity that I like to work with personally. They each have their own altars always in my home. And so throughout any point during the day, I can go and touch a stone that I have on the altar that's representative of them. Draw a card from a deck I associate with them. For Isis, that would be the Isis Oracle. For Satan, that would be Tarot of Vampires. And I'm always having a little bit of a dialogue with them going on in the background. And the connection I have with the two of them is very much like I talk to them during the day. Something funny happens, I laugh with them while I'm alone in the car. I am that little old lady that's talking to herself at the grocery store. I don't have any shame in that, and it helps me to keep that connection alive, so that when Hecate comes in or Medusa comes in, I can hang out with them and learn from them and grow with them. But I still have that core connection with Satan and Isis. So I'm not losing track of them, but they also are always more than willing to step back so that lessons can be explored with other faces of deity. And I feel it as Isis. I'll kind of feel her take a little bit of a step back, letting me know she's still behind me, protective, but that I need to spend some time with Hecate right now, because there might be a choice I need to make, and I need Hecate's assistance to understand what the best choice is to make for this particular juncture in my journey. Over time, you will find that you have deity that comes in and out, but still is revisiting you regularly. For me, that would be Lilith, Venus, Ma Kali, Kuan Yin. Sekhmet will do this as well. And they'll flow in and out. Persephone is another one. Hades is another one. The white stag, Cernunnos. I'm always kind of dancing with them, but they're not always present. Satan and Isis are always present. But the other faces of deity will typically flow in and out. I will say the last few years, Lilith appears to very much for me personally be core. So I kind of have 3 deity. Lilith now has her own altar in my home as well, because they are so omnipresent. But the other faces will often flow in and out, and I'll work really intimately with Venus for a time, and then she'll take a step back, and you just feel the shift. You don't feel them as much when you're connecting, and that just means, it doesn't mean that they're gone forever. It just means that there's a time of exploring new connection or coming home to Isis and Satan and just spending some time intimately alone with them. And I have had that experience happen recently. Isis has stepped forward again to say, you know what, for a few weeks, it's just you and I. It doesn't need to be about a learning cycle for you. It's more about an integration cycle personally. So for me right now, drawing an Isis oracle card every day and leaving my devotional offering to her, talking with her as I move throughout my day, journeying with her when I have the time to and it is appropriate to. It's been about that, and it's been about connection, not about growth, not about learning something, not about understanding something, not about growing from a perspective of growing in my ability. It's been much more about experiencing a nurturing and a connection with her and just feeling that love and letting there be the flow between the two of us. So it's very possible to still have core deity and to allow other deity to flow in. It's about where you place attention. And what I have found over offerings and devotional work is that it's the attention that is most joyously received by deity. When we are paying attention, there is relationship that is fostered, and all of these connections are relationships. The relationship we have with the divine, it's the same thing as the relationship that we might have with a lover or a best friend. It's about investing, and the investing is the presence, the investing is the listening, the investing is being in the space and really being with that deity. And also leaning on deity. I think deity does want us to lean on them. And when we allow the divine to hold us, we build further levels of trust. So it's very possible to be walking with a specific face of the goddess and also learning from another face of the goddess for a time. And if you're looking for kind of an entry point into that, Jean Shinoda Bolen has a Goddesses in Every Woman book, which is very helpful to understand why certain archetypes present themselves and how to walk with them. And that you can be walking with Kuan Yin, but also connecting with Persephone. It isn't an either or. And again, it's about what we devote time and attention to. So you can do a daily card pull with Persephone and also do a daily card pull with Kuan Yin. You may do them at separate points in the day. You may really feel a certain face of the goddess at a certain specific time of day. Like my favorite time to walk with Hecate is in the dark. I really like to work with her either early in the morning or at night. I just like the way that she seems to reveal things to me very fluidly when the sun is not out. And I don't need to know why, it's just what works. And so I work that into my schedule, that if I'm connecting with Hecate for a season, I'm going to make time either early in the morning or in the evening once it's dark out to draw a card and just sit with her energy. If you are looking for an understanding of how do I feel deity, I want to encourage you to go out in nature. Sit on the ground. When you sit on the ground, when you look at a tree, when you lean against a big boulder by the ocean, how do you feel? How do you experience nature? Because I think when we slow down and we get still enough and we put the phone down and we feel nature, there's something electric, and it's difficult to describe, but it's an aliveness and it's relationship that you feel. The land is talking to you when you're still enough to listen. That is the same way that I feel deity when they come in, when we walk with them. It's that type of connection. It's experienced, it's alive. And the more still we become to listen to it, the more fluid and constant that relationship is felt. And so I don't need to be like right now, I can be talking about this with you and I still can feel Isis and I know she's there, and I can, after I stop recording, have a conversation with her over a cup of tea if that's appropriate, right? The more awareness we bring in by being present to the connections, the more alive they feel. And the more the nuance of when they're stepping forward or when they're shifting back can be experienced and explored. But to me, the biggest offering we give them is our presence and our awareness. And so it's not like we need to go buy some big fancy thing in order to appease them so they'll grant us an audience. That's not how connection with deity works and how I've experienced it. It's much more of a fluid space of relationship, and it's more about the presence, the awareness, the dedication to listening and to being attentive that becomes the best way we honor them. And then by walking our talk, we also honor the work we do with deity by learning the lessons that we've come here to explore as souls. we honor deity. And so they are walking with us and they want us to evolve and grow. They want to serve our expansion because our expansion serves their expansion. At least that's how I've experienced this understanding around deity work when I've asked deity, like, why are we walking together? Why do you reveal yourselves? What are we exploring together? It's very much, there's an awareness that they give that when we expand, they expand. When we grow and when we understand and when we evolve, they evolve. So it is a symbiotic relationship. It's something living. We affect each other. It's powerful. And it really is that simple. It's about communication, which involves asking and listening and then responding with honesty. And some of the work you do with deity will be shadow work. It will be quite intense and quite emotional and quite moving. And that also builds a sense of connection so that you can really feel, like I can always feel when Satan is present with his arms around me to allow me to grieve. Because we've done years and decades of really intense shadow work together. So I know when he is present with me as a support because we've built the trust over the decades. And we all can get to and do get to that same unique space for each and every one of us. So when it comes to walking with multiple faces of deity, can you do it and still have a core deity? Absolutely. How do you best build relationship with them? Through building forms of communication and practice that allows you to exchange with them. And from that space, you then kind of get your syllabus or, your lesson plan for the season. And you kind of start to feel into the framework. So, when I express that to say, like working with Medusa around the Terrifyingly Beautiful workshop, as I was walking with her and understanding why she was coming forward to help me, I started to see the structure of a workshop offering, but I was already engaging with the structure of what she was teaching me, if that makes sense. So I do find there's kind of like a structure to what I'm exploring with deity, and I uncover what that structure is as I step into the relationship. So I'm listening. I'm paying attention to subtle shifts in the frequency of the exchanges. And that's opening up another doorway, which opens up another doorway, which opens up another doorway. So it's something that must be experienced and walked and lived. It isn't something that I or anyone else can hand you a plan in order to make it be effective and work. I think it's about being playful and curious, trying things, stepping back when it's not working, and really listening and making your practice something you're consciously aware of and present to, not just something you occasionally touch once a month, but something that you're constantly building and exploring and tapping into and feeling into. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do isn't check my phone. The first thing I do is talk to my gods. And with the training that I was going to say grew up with, but yeah, I guess it was growing up with, it was in my 20s. Walking the wheel every day, the medicine wheel, is the first thing that I do. And it helps tap into the practice, which then lets me listen. And it's like plucking a string of energy and paying attention to what you're hearing on the other side. So I think if you want to connect with multiple faces of deity, they'll reveal themselves to you through signs and symbols, through repeating things over and over. Like for me, I kept seeing Medusa over and over. When it was Persephone around, I couldn't get away from pomegranates and the goddamn Seven of Swords. It was like everywhere, all the time, everywhere, all the time. So once they've made connection, they know you've seen, okay, we're acknowledging that there's something happening here. And through communication, whether that's card work or dialogue, you're understanding they don't just have a singular message for you. There's a longer term path to walk. Then you can really start building relationship. You look into that syllabus. You understand what the lesson plan is at a loose degree of awareness. And then you engage in the practice. And by engaging in the practice, you're building relationship. And so then next year, when Venus shows up again, with her beautiful pink roses and peonies, then I know that, oh, it's Venus. She's here again. There's something that we're meant to understand and explore together. And that's how I build living relationship with multiple faces of deity, while still walking predominantly with Isis and Satan, and knowing that every day I'm honoring those core faces of the goddess and God, and we're always together, but that doesn't mean that I don't get to play with others. It's not a monotheistic religion that I'm engaged in here. It's a living, breathing practice, the practice and path of priestess and witch. So I hope if you've been wondering, how do I do this? This gives you a little bit of a jumping off point. It's very much about experiencing it. It's about paying attention, being present, and investing time and energy. And then you understand how you uniquely build relationship, and then you follow that moving forward. It's quite exciting, and it leaves a lot of room for growth, development, and evolution. So if you've been wondering about working with Deity, I hope this answer helps. I am sending you guys, as always, absolute oceans of love, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.